Hey, what's going on? So, I'm coming at you today with my Ritual Beast deck profile. You can see I've got them nice and sleeved and face down here. Don't want to show you any of the cards. I know, you can probably guess what the cards are in this extra deck and in the main deck. The top cards, if you play Ritual Beast, you'll probably figure out what they are. For the most part, it's standard, so you'll see that as soon as we get into it, which will be right now. So, starting off, obviously, if you know about Ritual Beast, you'll guess that you need your three elders. This is arguably the best tamer in the deck, mainly because you want to open up with it. Basically, it gives you another normal summon, essentially. And it wouldn't even be that bad if it's special summoned from the hand. You would still be able to get Canahawk combos off, but the fact that it just normal summons it is also extra kind of awesome later on in the game. If you happen to have another beast in your hand, you can kind of go into a free ulti, so without having to worry about the names that you've special summoned and which ones you haven't. So Elder's definitely at 3, but that's like the only tamer that people tend to run 3 of. The next tamer, Lara, I actually run 2 of. I've seen people run 1. I don't like 1 Lara. I've seen people that they prefer the Pilica, the Zephyr Pilica. It does the exact same thing when it's normal summoned, it special summons one from the graveyard. It's the exact same, but I prefer having 2 Lara because even though, yes, she's only got 100 attack, which isn't very good, I like the fact that she's got 2000 defense. I like the ass on the Lara. But it's pretty good, because sometimes you can just set it if you've got a horrible hand, if you've got Tamer Spam, you can set it, and it can actually take people off guard. Sometimes just to see 2k, like, oh, well, damn. Also, the fact that it doesn't go to the extra deck, and it actually does go to the graveyard, is a lot better than if you wanted to get like an ambush off. It's easy to do it with Lara because you've got no way of bringing back the Pilica in Ritual Beast deck. So next up is 2 Wen. Now, I know you might be thinking like Tamer Spam. I've got lots and lots of Tamers, especially with E-Telly. You don't really need that many Tamers, but I just like to have this many because sometimes I just find it's better. It's better to have them than not have them. And if I run any less, I just know that I won't run into them as much in my games, and it will annoy me. Occasionally I do get Tamer Spam, but you're going to have to deal with that. That's one of the problems that this deck has, naturally. So you can try to cut it down by running less Tamers, when, by the way, special summons one from the Banished. It's not as good as the Lara, because it can't help you in a difficult situation. If you weren't able to get any plays off, you're probably not going to have anything banished. But the fact that she's 1500 is pretty good. I've caught people off guard by just, e-telling into it at the end of a battle phase and getting 1500 more damage off. The last tamer is also Zephyr Pilica. I briefly talked about this. It's exactly the same as Lara, except it's got 1000 attack instead. And what people don't actually realise is that the effect actually isn't as good because it destroys it during the end phase, which isn't as good. So 1 Pilica. Basically, they're just there for the names, really. If the names was an issue, then I would probably run like 3 Lara and 3 Elder, and like 1 Wen, and then call that a game. But now onto the Beast. We've got not two, but 3 Canahawk. Best Beast in the whole deck. It banishes one from the deck. That basically starts off so many crazy combos. This plus Elder equals win. This plus E-Telly equals win. And so win. Like, the ulti version of this completely matches its regular beast form. You need the Canahawk. It's so good in the deck. You need 3 of them. You want to see them in your opening hand. Exactly the same thing with the Pengu. The Rampengu. Still waiting for that ulti Rampengu. Probably not going to happen. But it'd be great if it did. Rampengu is not as good as Canahawk in most situations, but there are some times, like the fact that it's got slightly more attack, where it is actually better. My favourite thing about Rampengu is that if you've got D-Fissure on the field, or Macro, D-Fissure is more applicable really, because you can set that out first turn. This actually banishes 2, which sets up your combos a heck of a lot nicer than with Canahawk. So if you've got Elder, this, and D-Prison, wow, D-Fissure, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. You can search 3 times and still have the ability to contact out, which is insane. So for the non 3 ofs, we've got 1, 2 Apelio. I like Apelio at 2 because it's a standard beater, 1800, with the ability to banish from the grave and give every ritual beast 500 until the end of the turn, which essentially makes him a normal summonable 2300 beater, which was last format it was slightly annoying because it never quite got over the Jin lock, because Clauseless obviously has 2300 defense as well, but that's just unfortunate. The fact that it's a 2300 normal summonable beater, essentially, you're probably going to have a card in the graveyard. It makes it pretty good, and it's just there for the names, really. This, you don't want to see in your opening hand as much. That's why you only run 2 of them. But it is nice to have more than 1, which is different from the Petalfin, which you really only want to see 1 of, because if you draw this, it's really, really, really neg. Because, yeah, it's got 0 attack, which makes it pretty appalling to normal summon, but the effect banishes from the hand, and if you've just normal summoned this, you've taken a card out of your hand, and then you're going to banish 1, it's not really worth returning your opponent's card to the hand for that. But I do like the Petalfin because it just adds that 1 extra element to the deck, which allows it to do non-destruction removal, which is great, and you need it for the name, so there you go. I'd probably run 1 of them if names weren't an issue. Well, I say if names weren't an issue, but the whole deck is about that. So now, that's it for the Ritual Beasts. Now we're on to the non-Ritual Beasts, which is 1 and 2 copies of Max C. Now, I know this conflicts with Defissure and Macro, but I found that to never be an issue. I've played a lot of Ritual Beast games, and I have never encountered an issue where my Max Cs can't be used because I've got a Deprecision, or a Defissure, should I say, on the field. You just be strategic and you use them before. If you top deck a Max C when you've already got Macro out, that's unfortunate. But Macro destroys a lot of decks, so if you keep it out, you're probably doing alright. And it is important that you have 1 English version of Max C and 1 German version of Max C. No, that's not important, obviously, if you couldn't tell. 'Twas a joke. Now, I am also running the Synchro build, so for the tuners, I'm actually running 1 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, aka Yuki Usagi. Much prefer its Japanese name. I mean, come on, who wants to say Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit? Essentially, this is a cool card because it's got a Veiler hand trap, but mainly it's in here because it's an E-Telly target, which gives you access to some more Synchros. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's actually one thing to note about this is that its hand trap effect does actually also work from the field. So I don't know why I keep picking it up. It's better to be put down on this playmat. What actually is this? I don't even know. Oh, it's the Legendary Collection Joey's World cardboard mat. I think it's probably cardboard. But back to Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Its effect works from the field, which is pretty good because if you preemptively flip a E-Telly and you bring this out, you can essentially threaten your opponent with like, hey look, if you do something this turn, I can destroy whatever does it. So maybe they'll just want to pass and let this get banished at the end phase, but mainly you're going to use this for synchroing up. And for the rest of the tuners, I run 1 Gen XLI Birdman. Now, this is limited for a reason. People don't like this card. I don't know why. It's limited for a reason. It's because it's good. Basically, if you've got Elder and a Beast and this, that's a free level 7. And you get your Elder back. And in fact, it doesn't even have to be Elder. If it's not the first game, any Tamer, you bring back a Beast, return the Tamer, poof this. You can sync for Black Rose or Clearing Synchro Dragon. Black Rose more striking because if you go in second, you can just like clear your opponent's field and then set some back row, and then you'll still have your Elder for next turn, which is just great. So, and the fact that it's dark helps you bring out BLs, which is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But for the last tuner, which is probably the best tuner in the deck, is Krebons, because it's dark, unless you bring out BLs. Essentially, the play with this is that after you do your business with your ultis, whatever it be, whether it's summon a Pelio attack or summon a Canahawk and search without defusing, If you spam this afterwards with an E-Telly, just poof this in from the deck, you sync for BLs, and it's just like, it's even better. It's even more of a solid field for your opponent to try and get over when you just search for steeds and ambush, and then you just go make BLs at the end of it. It's insane. It's really cool. So Krebon's pretty cool. And occasionally, if you didn't know, this guy has an effect that lets him negate attacks. And anything that makes your opponent use card effects to get rid of it actually can be pretty cool sometimes. So that works. So that's it for the monsters. That is 22 monsters, I believe. The only archetypal spell I'm using is the only one in existence, the Ritual Beast Bond. People don't like this. I don't know why. I win games with this all the time because you just search for it, or maybe you've drawn it, and you just go for the OTK. You don't bother with your steeds in ambush if you have this. If your opponent's got a clear field, if they've got like 3 back row, then fair enough. But if they've got like an open field with not much, just maybe a monster that you need to get rid of, it's pretty cool because you could just like say, oh, forget the steeds, forget the ambush. I'm just going to search for this. I'm going to make a Pelio and another Apelio, and I'm going to attack with them. And then you just poof this for something else to finish off the damage. So it's really, really useful. Plus it's quick play. Well, obviously it's quick play. That's how you're able to do the OTK. But the other use for it is to set it, and then when your opponent flips something that might be potentially like a Black Rose or a Raigeki, something dangerous, you can flip it and you go into the Petal Fin, because that can't be destroyed by card effects. Now, onto the best spell card in the deck. Not 1, not 2, but 3 E-Telly. 3, yes, you have to run 3. And you have to have an Ultra, another Ultra, and an Ultimate. I know it's getting a reprint soon, so I wasted my money, but E-Telly is just brilliant. I would gladly pay 20 quid for these E-Tellys, because these were amazing. The fact that this just gets over the lack of tamers, that's why tamer spam is a thing and beast spam isn't a thing. It allows you to poof instant Canhawk on your first turn if you have any beast. Any beast at all. So, and the fact that obviously E-Telly being quick play, it allows you to go into more OTK options and synchros just to poof your tuners in at the end. E-Telly, absolutely amazing. Would never drop it from 3 to 2 or even 1. Or even none. I've seen people run none. So, next up, I'll speed up a bit because I tend to take my time because I ramble a lot. It's 2 MST. I run 2 because it's quite a back row heavy deck and you are setting a lot, and I find that sometimes, even though you search for a lot of your stuff, so it kind of does make sense to run 3 MST. And obviously back row messes up your combos sometimes. But I only like it at 2. This is just got a me thing. It's nothing to do with Ritual Beasts. I don't like MST at anything different than 2, unless I'm playing a special deck like Cosmo where I can blow up my own field spell or whatever. But MST is great because it's MST. And at 2, I just find it's less cloggy than at 3. And at 1, you just miss it. I love seeing MST in my hand. Everybody does. Now for the one-offs is the obvious stuff. Raigeki. Enough said, it's Raigeki. And Book of Moon. And I know it's just Book of Moon, but I actually am considering taking this out because it doesn't do anything specific in the deck. It's no longer like a Jin out or anything like that. It's just kind of a random card that can be used in a bunch of different ways. The only thing it can possibly really do for the kind of combos, the only thing it could possibly do is if you've got a Canahawk already on the field from last turn, use its effect, Book of Moon it, flip it back up again, use its effects again. That's ridiculous. I mean, you could only really justify doing that with a Pelio if you wanted to maybe get like 2,000 extra attack on your Canahawk. So, and the final spell is Defissure, because we've talked about Defissure. It's great. It messes up Shadows, it messes up Burning Abyss, it messes up Necros, it messes up Synchrons, messes up all kinds of crap. Doesn't mess up your Senju though, or Ritual Beast. It's an easy side out though for stuff like that. It's too good to not main. You don't side deck stuff like this when the whole meta is about the graveyard. So, onto the traps. Obviously, best card in the deck. Steeds. Wow, that's an upside down Steeds. And Steeds. Steeds at 3 is absolutely necessary. I actually think that Steeds if Ritual Beasts take off and become tier 1, the first hit is going to go straight to Steeds. Knowing Konami, they'll probably, like, limit Elder or something daft like that. But I think Steeds go to 2 is probably the fairest hit to Ritual Beast at the moment. Anything more than that, and it's just kind of shitting on the fans because it's not tier 1. It's not doing anything too big. But Steeds is, like, serious. Steeds is a serious thing. And that's why you need to run 3 of them, because it's a searchable trap and it's non-targeting destruction on your opponent's turn. This is almost always Raigeki. There is never a case where it's like flip Steeds, which one am I going to kill? It's flip Steeds, set your back row and end your turn. That's it. So the only other card left in the whole archetype that we haven't covered, apart from that other pendulum, is the Ambush. The Ritual Beast Ambush. You need this at 3 as well. If you open up with 2 or even 3 of these, you're an unlucky man. Unless your other 2 cards are like Kanahawk and E-Telly, you're pretty unlucky. This can generate loads of advantage, but only if you have the advantage cards in the first place. Because this is just good. It helps you get guaranteed plays. If you flip this in your opponent's end phase, you get stuff. But sometimes, if you draw multiple, it can take away from your plays quite a bit because you're not using it for a long, long time. But I find that if I run any less than 3, it just gets a bit, oh, well, I wish I had another ambush to search for. And you find yourself searching for stuff you don't need off of the Kanahawk. Next up for the traps is Macrocosmos. It's essentially another D-Fissure. I would rather run 2 D-Fissure than Macro, because, like, Macro just isn't as good, because, 1, it's not as fast. Well, that's it, it's not as fast. And, this doesn't get under Royal Decree, and D-Fissure does. Also, this can be solemn warninged. Yeah, watch out for that. And for the final 2 trap cards in the game, just the one-ofs, my personal ads, Fiendish Chain. It's one of my favourite trap cards. It's so good right now. This is why the commons are going for, like, £5. Like, seriously, because they're so good. Fiendish Chain is amazing. The fact that it stops monsters from attacking and using their effects, but it doesn't even get rid of them off the field, is great. It's great. It's like what Spellbinding Circle should have been. And for the final trap is the best card in the entire trap decks. Solemn Warning. Good in every deck. Doesn't matter that you pay life points. It's solemn. Because it's solemn. So that's it for the main deck. That is obviously 40 cards. Not running any less or any more. Well, you can't run any less. But not running any more. Don't really need to. Only card I may consider swapping out is Book of Moon. But without further ado, let's get onto the extra deck. So, start off with the extra deck. Obviously, it's 15 cards. 2 Gaia Pelio. This is the boss monster of the deck. If Steeds isn't the boss monster, because I think Steeds is the boss monster, then this is the boss monster. Without Steeds, this would be your goal. But since Steeds exist, you don't have to make this every game. But it is still essentially a boss monster. If you can search for, like, instead of searching for your traps, if you go in Kanahawk and search for 3 or 4 different beasts or tamers, any Ritual Beast card, doesn't really matter, and then you summon this, you're pretty much set, because you can, as long as you've got Ritual Beast cards in your hand, you can negate anything. And to say it's a 3200 beta that could potentially be increased by a Pelio, it's great. It's really hard for your opponent to get rid of if you have the resources. You need 2 because you need something to be able to send with Rampengu so that you can send tamers to the grave, and you still need 1 to be able to summon that same game. You're probably not going to send both of them with Rampengu. Rampengu is one of them effects that you only really want to resolve once. Otherwise, you'll just ruin your kind of extra deck. So, only 2 over there. It's Cloggy at 3, but one of them, you still need it. You still need more than 1, so. Next, the best card in the extra deck is the Kanahawk. And that one's an upside down Kanahawk. And this is the 3rd right side up Kanahawk. So you need it at 3. Basically, you want to be able to send it with Rampengu, because unless you have, like, an ambush, unless you have a certain hand, then Kanahawk's probably going to be the first monster you want in your sandbox, which is your graveyard and banish pile, kind of together. So you're going to be banishing one of these for your Rampengu, obviously. But this is also going to be the prime card for your opponent to stop, and you're also going to want that third one, because if they Solemn Warning this, or Black Horn of Heaven it, or whatever, maybe they Fiendish Chain it, and then Fiendish... No, that wouldn't work. If they do something that means you can't defuse this, most of the time you can defuse them and get them back and keep them, so you probably can get away with 2, but just to be safe, run the third, because if you don't have Cannahawk in your extra deck, you can't do much. You cannot do much if all your Cannahawks die. Most important card in the extra deck. So next up for the Ritual Beasts, there is 1 and 2 Apelio. I don't want Apelio at 3, because I find that you never ever need to make 3 Apelios. You obviously want the one to be able to send with Rampengu, and you want the other one to summon. If you can summon 2 Apelios, like if you need that third one to summon, then you have the resources to summon the Guy Apelio instead, which is usually a better option. Sometimes I do go for 2 Apelios if I want to go for an OTK, but a lot of the time, you just don't need a third. You can get away with these 2. It just works in my opinion. I'm playing the Synchro build, so my extra deck is a little more cloggy than a pure Ritual Beast extra deck. I think with a pure one, you could probably get away with 3 of every single card, but we'll see. And the final Ritual Beast is just the Petalfin put in defense mode, where it belongs. 2800 defense, can't be destroyed by card effects. It's pretty good. If you... I guess the theory behind this is that you spam it at the end of your turn, and it end. Like you go into your Cannahawk, search, go into your Pelio, attack, go into this, end. Like, I think that's probably the way the anime would handle Ritual Beasts, but in the meta game, it's Cannahawk search, Cannahawk search, Cannahawk search, and there is no Apelio tag out for Cannahawk, tag out for Petalfin, but this is great with Bond if you want to protect yourself from being completely wiped out. Plus, it's there to send. I don't find that you need a 2 of 1 to summon, 1 to send. I don't find that you need that. I hardly ever summon this. Like I say, Bond is more so for OTK than going into this. So now for the Synchros. Let's do this backwards. For the level 7s, we've got Black Rose Dragon. I know it's common, you should shoot me. And Clearwing Synchro Dragon. It's not Ghost Rare, I know you could shoot me, but it's Ultimate Rare, so that's better than the Black Rose. Well, these are your level 7s. The main way you go into these is either a Beast plus Italy, and you get out the Yuki. But that's not a good play, because you can poof out a Tamer, and that equals Cannahawk, and that equals play. Mainly you're going to go into these via Gen X Ally Birdman, which is pretty cool, because I know essentially what I said about Gen X Ally Birdman also gets you the Cannahawk, but sometimes you just want to Black Rose the field. Sometimes you just want to Black Rose the field. Clearwing is good against certain decks. I think it's because it's generic and it's just got so many effects, it's pretty cool. You just kind of have to run it in there. There isn't really any other level 7s that can really match Black Rose. This is obviously the one you're going to want to go to if you have the ability to make a 7 and you just want something on board, whereas Black Rose is obviously a more strategic kind of destroy everything. Yeah, so that's that. Onto the 8s is Stardust Dragon, just because you can make Stardust, and I like Stardust. I just like Stardust. And for the most practical card in the extra deck is Bielz, or Bielza, as I believe it is supposed to be pronounced. Bielza of the Diabolic Dragons. So I've got my premium gold, Bielz here, and this is basically the easiest to make, because all you need is Crebons, or an Italy. You need to just make an ulti, and then get Crebons out, and you've got this. And Bielz is really difficult to deal with. I know people say there are a lot of outs to Bielz, but one card outs to Bielz are Deprison, Compulse, maybe some, not talking about archetypal cards, but Deprison, Compulse, the kind of stuff that people don't actually run. The outs to Bielz include things like Castell and 101, and that's something that your opponent has to pretty much give up their turn for. They have to cancel their plays and go for something to get rid of Bielz, because And that's good. If you can essentially stop your opponent from doing what they want to, it's good. And the fact that it's easy to summon is just great. So for the rest of the synchros, aka the level 9s, we have the best, or I should say the only level 9, the best level 9 synchro in the game. It is, of course, Mistworm. JK, 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 JK. It's Trish. Trish. Of course it's Trish. But we also run the Mistworm as well, so thought I'd pull that little joke on you there. Because Mistworm and Trish, they're pretty cool. The fact that you need two of them is slightly annoying, but maybe it'd be okay. Two non-tuners, should I say. Two non-tuners to summon them as well as your tuner is slightly annoying because it means that you can't poof in Yuki from next to an ulti and go for Trish. That would be broken, but you know, Yu-Gi-Oh's Yu-Gi-Oh! And you can't break it too much, otherwise it's no fun. So BL's is fine. I'm happy with summoning Trish via strange ways. The reason I run the Mistworm as well is just because sometimes, even though Trish is better, because you can get rid of something from the hand, the field, and the graveyard, Mistworm still can get rid of 3 cards out of the way, essentially. And that can sometimes be better against established fields. If like the only card you need to get rid of is a BL's, and then like the couple back row, you don't really need to go into Trish. I'm just picking which one to point at then. You don't need to go into Trish if there's only one problem card and like 2 back row. Mistworm's probably better. But if they've got like 2 cards in hand and, I don't know, a Falco in the graveyard or something that you don't want, I don't know what's wrong with Falco, but something in the graveyard, maybe a Trick Clown, that's it. And for the final card in the extra deck, because that adds up to 14, the final card is the 1xCs. Can you guess what it is? Lightning Chidori, which is just a brilliant card. It is brilliant. This card is brilliant. If it was generic and not wind, this card would be like broken. This card would be really broken. The fact that it gets a free set card when it's summoned, and you can detach one to shuffle a face up, that's all. Yes, they target, but neither of them are destruction removal, and that's essentially 3 removals out of 1 card. Bear in mind that only takes 2 to make, which is pretty damn good. Plus, it's still a 1900 beta after all of that, and during all of that, so it's pretty great. This card, I find that it's really useful to make during game 2 when your opponent activates Imperial Iron Wall, because your Ritual Beasts, that card is supposed to mess you up. If you can get 2 beasts out and make Lightning Chidori, it's pretty good because you can shuffle this back to the top of their deck, and then that pretty much cancels their next draw. If you can do plays after that, then good for you, but if you can cancel their next draw, and then they're just going to set it again because they're like, oh, I'll just set it again. But then at the start of your next turn, or whenever they activate it, you shuffle it again. It's pretty annoying because it locks your opponent out of draws. And if you can make your plays afterwards, that's 2 turns where you can do all your banishing. So, Lightning Chidori helps. And that is it for the extra deck and the main deck. For the side deck, I have a pseudo side deck. I don't actually have a side deck at the moment, but you can imagine the kind of stuff you'd see in it. Stuff like MST, that extra MST for Cleese, and all kinds of other stuff. Pendulums. Triple Shadow Imprisoning, because why suffer Burning Abyss and Shadows when you don't have to? Black Horn of Heaven is actually major hate towards any kind of Xyz deck, Synchro deck, and Ritual Beasts, because they are contact fusions, they are inherent summons. This card just breaks them. I don't know why people even think about Double Trap Hole. This card is so much better. Granted, it can't stop ambush, but who cares if you can't stop ambush when you're going to be able to stop whatever they do after the ambush? So, and plus this card is way more versatile against other decks, like Yang Zings and all sorts of stuff. And then the one cool side deck card is Starlight Road, just because we run Stardust, it means we run this. This is for the mirror match. I may consider putting in like a retort or something. Maybe I've got too much hate for Ritual Beasts. I need like a Lancia and Light Imprisoning Mirrors, stuff for the other decks. But I find that not Lightning Chidori, Starlight Road is sometimes pretty cool. It's just the faces on people when you flip this after they flip a Steeds, and you're like, nope, you're not going to destroy my stuff. And here, look at my Stardust Dragon, because you can essentially negate their next Steeds as well, which is funny as all heck. So that is it for my Ritual Beast deck profile. I'll probably, well, I don't know what I'll do, but here's the extra deck, and here's the main deck. In reversed order, here's the side deck as well. So, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe what you think. Maybe you can improve my deck. This is not the same build as you saw in the last video I uploaded. You can look in the description or on my channel if you want to see it. Maybe there'll be an annotation right here. I don't know. I'll make that up later. But it's not the same deck. But I think this is my permanent build for Ritual Beast now. I spent a while like perfecting it and changing it. There was a time when I even added Quasar, Soul Charge, and Effect Veiler. And I had like not triple, but Catastro and Armades just for a Formula Synchro, just so I could make Quasar. Because Soul Charge, equals Quasar. But it was just crazy, and it was not consistent. But this is the deck I like. It's my favorite deck right now, Ritual Beasts. And I just love it because for some reason it feels like tier 1 when I play it, but everybody insists it's tier 2. So that is it for me. I will see you in the next video. Outro.